Do you like pixel art? Do you like chickens? Then you stumbled upon the right video. As a newbie pixel artist, I find building a strong silhouette is the best way for me to start a project. Once you get the silhouette down, it just becomes an adult coloring book. But until you get that strong silhouette that communicates the subject's essence, the pixel art will fall flat. I started with trying to give my chicken feet because how else are they supposed to get around? But these feet did not agree with the silhouette. The first pass isn't bad, but these pixels just don't scream chicken. When I think chicken, I think soft, fuzzy creature. I'm afraid that these two vertical lines for its legs are just too sharp, the exact opposite of fuzzy. And then come to think of it, I don't remember seeing a lot of chicken feet in games from the 90s. So in take 2, it was off with its feet. And already the shape has greatly improved. It reminds me of one of those wind readers that you see on the top of barn roofs. This attempt is better, but I don't like how jagged and sharp the chicken's backside is, and I want a chicken that can be cuddled in bed, not stab you in the back. As a pixel art newbie, I struggle at creating the illusion of a smooth curve. That's why I lean on the circle tool when I need to make a curve. Think smarter, not harder. Let the computer calculate the perfect curve for you. I use several circles for the chest, back, and head, and then connect it with lines. I struggle with how far exactly to bring out the chicken's chest, and it was times like these that I have to remind myself not to overthink pixel art. Things are never going to be perfect, but it's the imperfections and limitations that make pixel art so beautiful. And now it's time to color this bad boy in, and all of you get to see my incredible workflow habits as I like to give each and every pixel a little gentle kiss on the forehead to make sure it feels special. Eventually I find this paint bucket tool and we have this melted Hershey Kiss shape. So let's start designing the main features. I start with the wings. Giving the wings a nice fluffy feature was difficult due to the nature of pixel art. I wanted to mimic a texture, but I also needed a well-defined line. This is just one of the balancing acts you have to do with pixel art. And to give our chicken a three-dimensional feel, it needs some shading. I like to start with the darks because it's easier for me to picture. I want to push the dark brown as far as I can go so I can use darker browns later on. But for now, I just want to establish my lights and darks. Chickens aren't always one color, so I wanted to make the head a much lighter brown to add some variety. I think this also helps add to that flu feeling that I'm trying to convey. Working on the gizzard, or whatever the red parts are called, highlights the importance of color choice. Because each color influences the ones around it, you have to be very intentional with your picks and pixel art. Originally, I was leaning towards this more white, purple, red for the gobbles, but ultimately I ended on this cherry red. Looking back, the purples and the red worked well with the brown. Luckily, this is easy to change if I want. This guy still looks like a wet seal more than a chicken at this point, so let's move on to the texture. Feathers aren't straight, rigid objects. They're light, soft, organic. How can we capture the essence of this with just some squares? First, we have to pick a color, and when working with yellows and browns, this can be difficult. Sometimes oranges and yellows get muddy the darker you go, so finding the right light or dark takes a little playing around. It's real easy for a color to be too yellow, too white, or too orange. For now, we can just use the brown on the chicken's head. Again, I struggle with getting nice curves, so for the feathers, I break out the circle tool. This helps me avoid pointy, sharp chickens. I try to add more feathers, but nothing feels natural. I moved to the chicken's face, but I really struggled finding that light brown for those reasons I mentioned earlier. I like to give my pixels room to breathe and don't like it when elements are too close together. That means I really need to be mindful not to make the face too busy. This is extra important since we already have that black pixel for the eye. Overtaking this eye or making the head too busy is so easy to do, but this little chick still looked flat and boring. I didn't feel like I could go any lighter, so it was time to push the darks darker. The darks at the bottom and the backside of the chicken is what enabled the body to pop. With these darks established, I felt confident taking one more pass at adding that floof. It still took some time, but one of the advantages of pixel art is how easy experimenting and making changes is. So if something isn't working, just keep clicking around. You might just stumble upon the solution. Whew, we're almost done, but we need to address the outline. While black outlines are great at making something look bold, I find non-black outlines make the subject seem much more natural. With a quick pass, we have our brown chicken. Now, maybe you're someone who likes that classic farmhouse white chicken. Well, good news, recoloring a sprite is relatively easy. First, I fill in the white space, and this time I purposely neglect that paint bucket tool because I want to remember where my lights and darks are at. Establishing the lights and darks was like half the challenge of coloring, so let's not move backwards. Now we need to establish our light, medium, and dark shadows. And once we have those, things move pretty fast. Because we lost the variation in the chicken's head, I felt more comfortable adding these extra dark gray pixels to help contrast against the pure white. Once everything's re-outlined, we got our 2 pixel chickens for the price of 1. What do you want to see created in pixel art? Drop a comment below.